Okay, perfect. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be talking with you guys and sharing a little bit about what dietitians do. It's always fun to advocate for dietitians out there. So thank you so much, Dr. Suman and Dr. Ramke, for having me. So we'll get started. So I just wanted to share a little bit about me. So I actually am from Texas. I received my bachelor's of science in nutrition from the University of Texas at Austin. Go Longhorns. I completed my dietetic internship with them as well. A dietetic internship is required for us. It is 1,200 hours, or at least the one at UT was 1,200 hours of supervised practice. Supervised meaning with other dietitians, professors, doctors as well. And this is with the UT coordinated program in dietetics. It is coordinated program because we are doing it as we are going to school. So I got to be done a little bit quicker. I always get asked as a dietitian, how did I get into it? Many dietitians get into it because of personal experience. Maybe they were struggling or battling an eating disorder when they were younger, or maybe they just always had an issue with their own personal weight or autoimmune disorders, for example. For me, it wasn't like that. My first job was working at a cooking school for kids. I love to eat, and most people don't know that about dietitians, but we really do like to eat and try new foods. So when I started working there, I was pretty young, and it was really fun. But I also was introduced to food allergies and a long list of things kids weren't able to eat and concerns parents were having. And so that's how I came into into nutrition. I also like science always, so they kind of go hand in hand. I wanted to put in my information on there, so that's where you guys can reach me. As Dr. Ramke said, I am the dietitian at Apex MD, and if you call our office, extension 4 will go straight to my line. If you guys have any questions or would like to inquire, there's a lot more information on our website as well, and there's actually a couple of blogs that I've written that are on there also. So I wanted to outline our objectives. My main goal here is to teach you guys what a dietitian does. Many people don't know what a dietitian, or I always get asked what I do in general. I want to discuss the role of the dietitian in an outpatient setting. So what I do at Apex MD specifically, and I wanted to detail our nutrition program, how we've decided to run it, and how it works for our patients. And then I also wanted to dabble a little bit into the nutrition and health during a pandemic. Now there's pandemics and rioting and things like that. So it has changed everything. People are working from home. So I wanted to discuss that with you guys also. So what is a registered dietitian? So we are called RDs, but also registered dietitian nutritionist. That is a recent change so that most people understand that we are nutritionists as well. But there is a little bit of a difference. I'll go into that in a second. So dietitians are nutrition experts. We translate the science of the nutrition and turn it into the solutions for people. So we kind of put them into layman terms. We separate science from opinions, and we provide facts and disprove all the myths and bad diets that are out there. Dietitians differ from health coaches, nutritionists, and I wanted to bring this up because most people don't know, in that we do have accreditation. We get our license, and there's a council for it. The Commission on Dietetic Registration gives RDs their credential if you've completed the bachelor's degree, if you have done your dietetic internship, and then you have passed a national registration examination. Okay, so we are also having to do continued education every year. We need a certain amount of hours. We have to stay up to date on the research and translate that to our patients and our practice. So what does a dietitian do? So technically, I provide medical nutritional therapy to patients. What this means is I provide counseling. I personally use a patient-centered, holistic approach. And that means that it is very specific to each individual. I will ask you about your sleep, your stress, your family. It's not just what do you eat, because I know that their whole body is involved in this, and your stress level and your family and your settings do affect it. A holistic approach allows dietitians to recognize a patient's barriers to success. And that allows me to help you give you strategies to modify what you are doing, your lifestyle, so that we can break those barriers and keep moving on and working towards your goals. So I work in a one-on-one setting, so there is no group classes. I sit with you. Again, this is where the patient-centered part comes in. It is based specific to each individual. I work with patients wanting to manage all kinds of comorbidities, managing their blood pressure, blood sugars, cholesterol, triglycerides. Weight, of course, comes in, as well as many gastrointestinal issues, GERD and IBS being some of them. In general, that's what I do in an outpatient settings, but dietitians do work in many different fields. There's school nutrition, oncology, pediatric nutrition, sports nutrition, food service, etc. So dietitians are kind of everywhere. I prefer the outpatient center because it is one-on-one. I get to make deep connections with my patients, and I personally enjoy when I see my patients succeeding. Now, this one's interesting. What do dietitians really do? And I like this one a lot because we reframe, reinforce, and redefine. And so just to give you an example with weight loss, we reframe weight loss journey beyond the pounds lost. We focus on health, or I personally focus on health and healthy eating, not the scale. So when we're talking about the weight loss journey, I always get patients who are so scaled focused. And so my job is to remind them and kind of reshift them to focus on their eating and not just the pounds that they're wanting to lose. I reinforce because for me, it's long-term maintenance. I don't want them yo-yo dieting, for example, or gaining weight and losing it all back. So my goal is to build habits that will help them keep the weight off, exercise, meal planning, portion control, just to name a few. And I redefine. It's all about success beyond the scale. The success is not that you lost the weight, but the habits that you built along the way. Perception change, those habit changes, realizing how you feel, and the fact that you are aware of your health at that point. Now, yes, I asked you what you eat. And I also assess many other things, such as does the patient want to make the changes, or does the physician want the patient to make the changes? And that makes a really big difference because it changes the patient's motivation. Speaking of motivations, what drives the patient to make changes? These are lifestyle changes, are not easy to make, so I have to figure out what drives them. Maybe it is family. They want to be around for their kids, for their grandkids. Maybe it's a big event coming up, their daughter's wedding, or something they want to be around for and would like their blood pressure to be under control, or better managed so that they feel well for such wedding. I also assess what are their barriers to their success. Is it financial? Maybe not being able to have access to the food that they need. Maybe they don't know what they're supposed to be eating, the knowledge factor. Time management, maybe they're working 2 jobs, single mom. That's a pretty big barrier. And their family, how their family perceives it. So if their family is not willing to make changes, how they are going to have to do it on their own and kind of influence their family. But also culture and food preferences. Some patients are unwilling to change the way that they eat based on cultural things. And so letting them know that I will work with them where they are, meet them where they are, and that I'm not going to tell them not to eat something. A good example I always get is, I love eating rice. I have to eat rice with my meal. I'm not taking away the rice. That's not the point. I'm from South America. We eat rice all the time, so I understand. So the culture and food preferences play a role in all of it. So I assess that while I'm working with my patients to try to get them on kind of the road to success here. Now, there is not one approach, and if anyone tells you that, run. There is no one approach. There is no right way to manage blood sugars. There is no one way to get to your weight loss. That is why working on a one-on-one setting is so great, because I provide a personalized approach. It is based on what works for you. So intermittent fasting, for example, is a new thing that people are loving, but that may work for some people, but not for others. If you prefer to exercise in the morning, intermittent fasting may not be the best thing for you. Or for some people, lower carbohydrate diets work, but not for all. Not everyone prefers to be on a lower carbohydrate, or maybe they shouldn't be on a lower carbohydrate diet, even if their best friend is doing it. And it does take trial and error. As good as I am, it does take trial and error. We have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Some patients may need more accountability, and they may need to be tracking their calories. But quite frankly, I don't use that with all of my patients. Some of them do not need it, and they work better with a different type of approach. The number of visits is also dependent on the patient. Maybe they need to see me weekly for more accountability, but maybe they need to see me bi-weekly or maybe even once a month. So it all depends on the person, and that's the personalized approach right there. There is no one right way. Oh, screens are jumping a little bit, quite a bit. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're on to behavior change. So there's this belief of willpower and control that should be there. We should all have this enormous willpower to say no to this or yes to that, and have that self-control, but that is not necessarily true all the time. Humans are emotional, so it's not always there. And my job is to explain to patients that behavior change comes with practice and repetition, over and over, getting into the habit of doing certain things. And it also comes with gradual changes. It's focusing on one thing each week and getting better at it, as well as learning new skills. Meal planning is a big one. A lot of patients don't know how to meal plan or have never done it. And so I teach them how to meal plan, maybe how to grocery shop, what they should be buying. Cooking is a big one. If you do not know how to cook, maybe you're more inclined to go get food out, or assembling meals, not knowing what they should be eating at all, what should go with what. Maybe there's too many starches on the plate, or maybe just protein and maybe no vegetables. And then also problem solving on the go is also a good skill to have, because outside of COVID-19, most of us are on the go all the time. And so knowing where can I stop to get something. So these are skills that I help my patients develop, and that's what leads to the behavior change. And intuitive eating is something that I try to dabble into with my patients all the time, because it's teaching them how to listen to their body. I always get, well, when should I eat? What time should I eat? And it's more about listening to each individual's hunger level, and trusting their bodies to know, okay, this is when I am hungry. This is when I need to get food and get some energy. There we go. So why work with a registered dietitian? So motivation is a big one. I will be there to kind of give you that motivation, give you that little push, and keep you going, because along the way we kind of get discouraged a little bit. And so it's my job to keep you going and remind you why you're doing it. What is your hook? What's keeping you going? Maybe it's that event that you want to go to. Maybe it's because you would like to get off of medication. And so I'm there as a reminder. Accountability. Sometimes when you have eyes on you, you perform better, you do better. So the weekly visits remind their patients about their goals, but it keeps them on track, knowing that someone, when they come in, they're going to have to talk to them about their week, for example. And then peace of mind. I always say, am I doing it right? Should I be eating this? I've heard about this, I've read about this, but most people don't know whether that is the right approach for them. And so that's why I come up with a customized plan. Letting them know, this is what we're going to be doing. These are the meals that I would like for you to be eating. It's a solid plan, and we want to stick to it. Sometimes when we are working alone, we tend to kind of flip-flop and change the plan, even though we haven't given it enough time. And so for me, it's having a solid plan that we stick to, and for a good period of time to see if it works or if it does not. And lastly, you want to work with an RD, because we do have a few tips and tricks here or there. A good one, especially during summertime, is eating foods that are high in water. So watermelon, cucumbers, the berries, having those foods around right now are great, because one, they're hydrating you, especially if you're out on the lake or doing something. Having a watermelon as a snack is going to be better because it has water, but also because it fills you up. And so it keeps you fuller longer. So that kind of thing I provide for my patients, recipes as well. I always say using alarms to help them, remind them to eat, or maybe to drink more water. So those kinds of tips and tricks we provide, and that's why working with us would be good. Now, this is a quote from a patient, and I really like this one because this was unsolicited. She kind of told me as we were talking. She said, working with you was pivotal in transitioning to a healthy lifestyle. Learning about the foods and their nutrition helped me with my choices. You teaching me how to balance foods and how to appropriately mix them helped me be independent in my food choices. To me, this is food freedom. There is independence in the choices. And that is the ultimate goal for a registered dietitian, is that patients feel that they have the knowledge and the power they need to make a choice and feel confident about that choice, that they know that it is healthy and that is what they need, that they're listening to their body, that they understand micronutrients and how the food has the power to impact their health. So who should see a registered dietitian? Someone who's already working towards making a lifestyle change, someone who's already started, should see a dietitian. And again, that comes back to peace of mind. Am I doing it right? Should I be eating this? Should I not? Maybe discussing the plan that they have been doing with the dietitian. Maybe you've already lost some weight, or maybe you have been working towards lowering your A1C and your blood sugars, and you just want to check in and make sure that you are eating well. Now, someone who doesn't know how to make changes but are wanting to, they should most certainly see an RD, because we're gonna, again, give you a plan. We're gonna help you, give you the motivation and the accountability, and kind of keep you going in that journey. Now, I always tell this one to my patients: if you are unhappy with your food and what you're eating, the portions you're eating, maybe you don't feel well after you eat, you should definitely see an RD. You should see a registered dietitian, because you are not feeling well after you are eating. And that is my job, to figure out what is going on that you are feeling unhappy about. And you may not know why you're feeling so full or bloated. And it will take, again, trial and error, but we'll figure out what it is and make you feel better about your foods. And now, someone who does not know about food and nutrition, and this would mean everyone should see an RD. Some of us have a general idea, but it's also very heavily influenced by media and fad diets. And so I think I would like to say RDs, even if you feel like you don't need one or don't have any comorbidities, it would be good for you to see one just as a checkup and see, how am I doing? Is my diet well balanced? So in general, anyone who is interested, I would say they should try to see an RD. Okay, so nutrition and wellness at Apex MD, that right there to the right is Dr. Rimki Banerjee. She is our physician at Apex MD. So our program at Apex, I always say, fixes the gap between the physician and the patient in between those visits. Because a doctor may tell you, we need to work on lowering your blood sugars, we need to work on lowering your blood pressure. But patients don't necessarily know what that means outside of medications. And so that's where I come in. That's where I would suggest what kind of foods you should be eating, what kind of foods maybe we should be limiting or avoiding. I would be certainly telling you to try to start exercising and helping you with resources for that. So it fills that gap between the physician and the patient. Now, at Apex MD, we work as a team. We have Dr. B, as we call her, and we have our nurses as well. So the point of that is that we have Dr. B sees the patient first. There's an initial visit with the doctor, and she identifies whether the patient needs to see a dietitian or not. She identifies their qualification to come see me. And then they meet with me. They get to start working with me. And along the way, we work as a team, in that if they need a medication adjustment, I can immediately tell the doctor. Or if I see that the patient is maybe not willing to take certain medications, I'm the first to know, because I'm talking to them so regularly, and I can discuss it with the doctor, and maybe she'll change the medication because they're unhappy with it, or whatever it is. I can communicate with the doctor. She's also known her patients longer, so she knows maybe based on their culture, their family, what would work best. So we always talk and get together if I have questions on a patient, and kind of work out a plan for the patient as well. Sometimes she seems she deems a diet, maybe if a patient has IBS, she believes that FODMAP diet might not be the best approach and she might change it to that. So we always discuss this, and I feel like that makes the patient very comfortable, because when they ask the doctor any questions, she's on board and she knows what I'm doing with them. We also do have checkups every 4 months. Mainly because we want to make sure that your blood sugars are improving, that your cholesterol is improving, that whatever it is that we're working on is getting better. And if it's not, we need to maybe change the approach or figure out what is going on. And so again, that comes back to, I will be reminding you, hey, you have to come see the doctor and get your labs checked again. And so our approach is more of a team. We are in constant communication, and we're discussing the patient's treatments at all times. Let me see here. Now, to help patients, we also offer MIC injections at Apex MD. So these are a combination of vitamins and amino acids that come in an injectable form. So this is an injection, and we recommend that you get them on a weekly basis, starting out especially. And so they have methionine, inositol, and choline, and so that's why they're called MIC. That's what it stands for. And they, for example, the methionine is used to make proteins and amino acids, which help in weight loss, sugar metabolism, and normal function of the immune system. The inositol is a lipotropic precursor of phospholipids in cellular membranes. So the supplementation may increase the adiponectin levels. So to simplify it, in other words, it helps with breaking down the fats. That's where the adiponectin comes in. Is a protein hormone that modulates the number of metabolic processes. So it helps with your metabolism, including glucose regulation and fatty acid oxidation. The fatty acid oxidation is the breaking down of fats, so that's where it helps. And choline, it prevents deposition of fat, and it helps in the removal of excess fat from the liver. So for patients, for example, that have a fatty liver, this is something I would most certainly recommend. But in general, the goal of MIC injections is to help in the metabolism and the fat deposition. And so yes, they can aid in the weight loss process. I always say it has to come with diet and exercise as well, like everything else. Now, our MIC injections differ from other MIC injections in that they also contain these other components. They have arginine, they have a complete B complex, carnitine, and chromium. So arginine helps with blood flow. It allows for the blood vessels to expand, so that's really helpful. A B complex, I have patients who are vegan or vegetarian, they're not eating animal proteins, and so I always say we need to get you on B12. So this is something I would also recommend for them. Patients who tell me that they are feeling tired, maybe they'll get the vitamin D and B12 checked when they do their labs, maybe they won't, but I will recommend the MIC injections if they are feeling low in energy. They also have carnitine, which is one of my favorite ones because it carries the fat into the cell. So the more you have, the more it carries it. So it helps with that fat oxidation. And chromium is one I would recommend for patients who have elevated A1Cs or blood sugars, because it aids your body in making it more sensitive to the insulin. So the insulin that you're producing is kind of the key that opens the cell, and chromium allows that insulin to do its job a little bit better. So I would recommend patients who have elevated blood sugars to also get the MIC injections for these purposes. Again, the goal is to increase the metabolism and provide the body with what it needs for fat metabolism and fat breakdown. Now, for payment options, it is again based on clinical qualification. You will meet with the doctor who will say whether you need to see a registered dietitian or whether she will suggest that you do or not. And there usually is some clinical qualification. That may be the results from your labs. Maybe it is your blood sugars if you have diabetes, for example, or high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and on occasions, BMI could also be a clinical qualification for that as well, your body mass index. Most insurances actually cover for registered dietitians. A lot of people don't know that, but most insurance have a plan for nutrition services. How I always like to say it is they prefer you see a dietitian before you enter their hospital. You're going to be a lot more expensive if you have to go into a hospital visit. They would rather pay dietitians and have that preventive system available. So always check in with your insurance and see if they do have it, and we will check for you once we make the appointment as well. And lastly, if your insurance does not cover, we do have a self-pay option at Apex MD. So maybe if you don't have the clinical qualification, but you're still interested in coming to see me, you most certainly can, and there is a self-pay option. Now, this is something I wanted to talk about because it is happening right now. COVID-19, since it started, has definitely changed a lot of people's lives and routines. And so at Apex MD, thankfully, we're able to do telehealth visits. So these are video visits that I can do with the patients, same amount of time. It's a 30-minute visit that I do with my patients. So it is the same thing, it's just done through a video. And it allows for access to your physician as well as to your registered dietitian. So if you live far away, if you are wanting to stay at home, maybe you are immunocompromised, it allows you to stay home rather than having to come in an office or leave your house. And you don't have to miss appointments with the dietitian. I wanted to discuss the importance of staying healthy during this pandemic. I've gotten asked at the grocery store several times, like, what should I be eating during this time? Like, what should I be getting at the store right now? What can I do to maybe help my immune system? And my answer is usually the same. You got to get your fruits and veggies in. You have to get your water in, your sleep. You have to manage your stress. You have to support your immune system. So it is very important that we are staying healthy during this pandemic. But that can also be very hard because we have a new routine, a new lifestyle. We have maybe kids at home, or maybe your partner is now also staying home and there's a lot going on during the day. Maybe you don't have a big space. And there's also a lot of stress with just having to stay at home and not having the ability to go out. If you are immunocompromised, this is a very stressful time. And so it is difficult maybe a little bit to work on your health, but that's why still having those telehealth visits, it will help you try to change a few things. So with that being said, I am helping my patients right now finding a new routine and lifestyle. As crazy as it is for the past 3 months, everyone, the ones that can, for example, are working from home, but then they also have little ones at home and there is no routine. Maybe they're having to help them with school or just trying to keep them distracted as well as working. And so there seems to be little time. So right now I'm helping my patients find a routine that includes self-care for one, healthy foods, time to exercise, and definitely boundaries with work. Right now it is log on at 8 a.m. and log off super late, or not take breaks in between because you're at home and you feel weird not working. And I'm seeing that a lot. Patients are also telling me that they're a lot more busy now that they're working from home, because instead of turning to their neighbor and ask their coworker, asking them a question, now they have to be on meetings all day. And after meetings, of course, having to do the actual work. So, let me see here. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry about that. Oh, there we go. So right now I'm working on helping patients find a new routine and figure out their lifestyle. With staying at home and all the stress, there is a lot of emotional eating. Most patients are very stressed. They are sitting down in front of their computers all day, not taking breaks. And for me right now, I'm working on whatever cue they have that it is stressing them out. Maybe it's that everyday meeting that they're having, or not having time to move around. It cues that stress is cueing them to then eat, and usually it's not eat the healthiest of things, and then they get the reward, but then there is that guilty stress feeling, and all over again, if you're feeling stressed, you're cued again to eat. And so my job right now is to change change that action. If you are cued by your stress, I'm trying to figure out what can we do other than eating that will help you feel better. Maybe that is a hot beverage. Maybe that is shutting the computer off for 5 minutes and taking a walk outside. Maybe it's working outside for a little bit, putting your laptop in your patio and getting some sunlight. So working towards helping patients with that emotional stress and the lack of motivation. There's not many things to look forward to, or there wasn't up until, here recently. And so patients were not motivated to move or leave the room. And so trying to motivate them and get them looking forward to when the quarantine would end, and trying to give them some form of motivation so that they keep working towards their health and their diet. And lastly, there is so much inactivity. I think that's the biggest issue right now, is that we are not walking to our car, into the office, or to the cafeteria, back to the desk. It is get out from the bedroom, sit down, wherever your desk or office is, and we are staying on our computer all day. Now, it is also has been difficult for many people to want to leave the house and do any kind of exercise. And because gyms are closed, patients have not been able to exercise, and many were afraid to leave their house to exercise. So encouraging them to exercise in their homes, helping them figure out exercise videos or classes that they could join, giving them resources for that, so that they could start moving a little bit more. And these, again, here's my information on how to reach me. And this is the Q&A portion. So if you guys have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Thank you, Alison, for an excellent presentation. I think one of the slides I myself personally wanted to look at is where you talked about the MIC injections, like the MIC injections.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I can tell you personally, after, my wife comes there with Dr. B, and, with her problem with vitamin B12, I think Dr. B identified it and started putting her on B12 injections. And it's been a great help for her to get that energy level up and everything. So yeah, I mean, the reason I put that on is like some of our patients usually ask us questions, I'm having this issue, I don't know why, and all those things. I mean, these injections, they have their own great benefits. So yeah. So if anybody has any other questions,
Yes, feel free to ask if you guys do have questions. Yeah, I usually, my patients always ask me, like, do you like them? And most certainly I do. It is one of those things with supplements, you don't always know what you're getting, but because we know where they are coming from, I am sure of what's in them. And so I feel safe recommending them to my patients. I always hear I'm tired, or I'm just lacking energy. I always hear I feel like my metabolism is very slow, and so those are, every time I hear that, I'm always recommending patients to get these injections. I have patients who have stopped seeing because they're doing so well, and they're still coming to the clinic regularly and getting their MIC injections. So they are very, very helpful.
Yes. We'll just give a couple minutes and then. Don't have anything in the chat. Somebody's.
Go back and put the
I don't think any questions so far. So let's see. Alison, one second. Okay. I don't see any other questions come up so far. I'm also chatting with them on the side. So, all right. With that being said, if there are no questions, I'll move forward. Once again, thanks, Suman. Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Dr. B, for your time and an excellent presentation. I mean, this was very informative. Like I said, you know, we've come there, but I think this will provide a lot of important information for not only the patients and people who are going to see this video on Facebook once I post it on Weekend Wellness Facebook page. So with that being said, since they don't have any other questions, I'm just going to announce about tomorrow's event. Guys, tomorrow we have dentist Dr. Partha presenting on how to plan your dentist visit and you know, and the procedures. So it's going to be at 4 o'clock. Thanks again for your support. You know, that'll be like Weekend Wellness, I think series 18. And once again, thanks to everybody for joining in today, and looking forward to see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Alison.
having me.
Yeah, bye-bye.